Hey there and welcome to Fat Daniel's Barbecue. Today I'm going to be cooking something a little different. I'm going away from meat and indirect cooking and using direct cooking to cook myself a Mexican-inspired spicy bean burger. For this recipe you're going to need a butternut squash, an onion, some garlic, a couple of cans of black beans, some of my Dixie dust, some fresh coriander or cilantro, 2 teaspoons of cumin seeds, and a couple of teaspoons of chipotle flakes. Now the more observant amongst you will have noticed that these aren't flakes. These in fact are chipotles that I've grown and smoked myself. So I'm going to start by chopping them up, ready to toast them along with the cumin seeds. Chipotle is in fact just a dried smoked jalapeno pepper. They're readily available now in almost any supermarket, both whole and flaked. Well, that's probably enough chopping. I don't need to worry about them being too fine, so I think it's time to fire up the grill and get ready to toast my spices. Here I'm using the side burner on my gas barbecue, but if you don't have one of those, you can put the pan directly over the coals or even on your hob in the house. Now we don't want our pan smoking hot. When you can feel the heat with your hand about 2 to 3 inches above the surface of the pan, it's hot enough. So now I'm going to add my chilies and my cumin seeds and toast them up. Keep the pan moving so that the seeds don't burn. When you get a lovely toasted aroma from the spices, it's ready to take them off the heat. With the seeds all nicely toasted, it's time to drop them into a pestle and mortar. I'm going to add a pinch of coarse salt crystals just to help grind up and really get that down to a nice fine powder. And then it's just a question of elbow grease. So as you can see, I've ground that down now to a lovely nice fine powder. So we'll set that to one side and get on with the next job. Now we're going to peel our butternut squash. Now these can be quite tough to peel, so you're going to want a good sturdy peeler. But other than that, it's just a question of getting stuck in and getting that hard outer skin off. With the squash peeled, we now chop off the end and use a spoon to scoop out the seeds. And finally, chop the butternut squash into slices of about ½ centimetre thick. You're going to brush each slice with some olive oil and then, this is where the magic happens, I'm going to season generously with some of my Fat Daniel's Dixie Dust all-purpose seasoning. When all the slices are done on one side, flip them over and repeat for the other. With everything all nicely seasoned up, it's time to put this squash on the barbecue. I'm cooking these over a medium-high direct heat, just enough so the slices of squash sizzle when you place them on the barbecue. This is quite a dense food, so you're going to want to cook them for about 10 to 15 minutes each side until the squash is nicely tender and beautifully charred. You can see that these are done not just by the char marks on them, but the fact that they're actually breaking up under their own weight as I lift them off the grill. That's just about perfect. Well, the squash is off the grill now, and I have to say it's looking great and smelling even better. All we've got to do now is roughly chop it. There we go, the squash is all chopped, and I'm just going to pop that into a bowl before we start the next part of the recipe. Next up, we're going to peel and chop our onion. Don't worry about chopping it too finely. And now we go back to our pan. This time we're not going to use it dry, we're going to add a very generous glug of olive oil, probably 3-4 tablespoons worth. Don't let the oil get too hot because we're not looking to caramelise the onion, we just want to soften it. So as the oil starts to warm up, in goes our onions. And then, this is where the magic happens, we're going to give it a really generous sprinkling of my Fat Daniel's Dixie Dust all-purpose seasoning. Give the onions a stir every couple of minutes or so that they don't catch. After about 6-8 minutes, the onion should be nicely soft and just starting to take on a deep golden brown colour. When they're like that, it's just about perfect, and time to crush in our 2 cloves of garlic. Stir that in and keep it moving so that the garlic doesn't burn. Cook the garlic and onion mixture for a couple of minutes. Now we're ready to add our beans, which have been washed and drained, and our toasted spice mixture from earlier. Stir this all in and allow to cook. We want the beans to soften and warm through. Keep stirring so that everything amalgamates nicely. We want the beans to warm through, and we know that they're cooked when they can be readily crushed by the wooden spoon. Well, that's looking just about perfect, so time to take the pan off the heat and move on with the next part of the recipe. We're going to start by taking a handful of our coriander and giving it a good chop. With the coriander chopped, it's time to take our pan and empty the contents into the bowl with the squash we cooked earlier. Add the coriander we've just chopped. Then, using a potato masher, give everything a really good mash up. We want everything to combine, and when we're finished, we're looking for a rough mashed potato texture. Now I have to say, this is smelling amazing, but I have a few concerns over the texture. The mix seems a bit wet, and I have concerns that when I cook it, it could be a bit crumbly. Ordinarily at this point, I'd mix in an egg to help bind it, but as I'm trying to make this recipe vegan, we're going to proceed without. So all that remains is to cover the bowl with cling film and pop it in the fridge to chill. You'll need to do it for at least a couple of hours, but overnight will be best. Now whilst the mixture is chilling, I'm going to make up a dressing to go with the bean burgers. It's really easy. All you need is a couple of chipotles. I'm going to chop these up, and I'm looking for a yield of about 2 heaped teaspoonfuls. You'll need the juice of a lime, maybe a half lime depending on how juicy your lime is, and some sour cream. You can use non-dairy sour cream or yogurt if you're looking to make this a vegan recipe. For vegetarians, regular sour cream will do you just fine. I'm going to start by chopping up my chipotle. Now this takes a bit of time, and if you've got the option of chipotle flakes, that will be quicker and easier. Once we've got a nice flake-like consistency, we can pop that in a bowl. We'll add our sour cream. And then show the lime some love. Give it a good roll on the board. This will help it release more juice. And yep, I thought so. We'll probably get away with about half a lime's worth here. Give that all a mix together until it's thoroughly combined. And then, in the time it takes it to rest for an hour, all those flavours will have got to know each other and it'll be lovely with that bean burger. Right, well, here's the bean burger mix that we've had chilling in the fridge overnight. I'm pleased to say that it has stiffened up quite a bit, more than I expected it to, so who knows, we might be okay as is. We're going to divide this up by taking large handfuls and making balls. You should get 4 portions out of the mixture that we've made. Flatten these down into nice round patties. And I can tell from feeling these patties as I make them that it's still quite a wet mix, and perhaps that egg would have helped to bind it. We'll find out later when we get these on the grill. Now with this mix being as wet as it is, there's quite a high chance that these burgers are going to stick to the grill. So, to try and prevent that from happening, I'm going to introduce a little oil. Now the important thing when doing this is to make sure that you oil the food and not the grill. So with my patties now oiled up, it's time to get them on the barbecue. Place the patties oiled side down onto the hot grills of the barbecue. And then drizzle a little more oil over the top so that they're nicely lubricated when it comes time to turn them over. Cook the burger patties for 10 to 15 minutes on each side. Here you can see me turning the burgers after 10 minutes cooking time. Now, I think that's possibly slightly under, so I'm going to give the second side 15 minutes. Here we are about 12 minutes into the cooking time of the second side of the burger, and it's time to put a bun on to toast. Well, that looks about perfect, so let's get that off the grill and get ready to build our burger. And with the cooking time up, it's time to take the patties off the grill. Oh dear, you can see that these are still very soft and breaking up. I guess I was right about that egg after all. However, it smells great, and I'm sure it's going to taste really good too. Here I've got my bun, preloaded with a leaf of lettuce. I'm going to drop on one of my burger patties and apply a generous dollop of the sour cream dressing that I made earlier. And there's nothing left to do but taste it. Oh yeah, now that's good. A proper tasty burger, and meat-free too. Yes, it's a bit crumbly, but I'm sure if we added an egg and made this a vegetarian recipe, that would solve that problem. If you're still looking to cook this as a vegan option, then I guess shallow frying it in a pan with some vegetable oil would probably help it stay together a bit better than cooking it on the barbecue. Give it a try and let us know how you got on. Right, well I'm going to leave you now, but I'll see you next time at fatdaniels.co.uk. Good food, good times. Fat Daniels.